Today, we're going to crack open a 5,000-year-old text that's less about predicting the future and, honestly, a lot more about mastering your present. We're talking about the I-Ching, but probably not in the way you've heard about it before.
So let me just start with this question. What if a book that's literally thousands of years old could be a practical playbook for your career, your projects, and your life? Like right now, today. That's the whole idea we're going to dig into.
Okay, first things first, let's clear the air. When most people hear I-Ching, their minds jump straight to fortune-telling, some kind of mystical tool that's going to tell you your fixed destiny. But that's the myth. The reality, at least in this modern view, flips that on its head. This isn't about fate, it's about strategy. Think of it as a playbook for dealing with the one thing that's always constant: change.
And hey, this isn't some new age spin. This quote from the Confucian disciple Zhunzi is ancient. He says, "Those who know Yi do not cast lots." Yi is just another name for the I-Ching. And what he's really saying is, if you truly understand it, you don't need to leave things to chance. It's about wisdom, not wishful thinking.
So what is it then? At its heart, the I-Ching is a system. It gives you these timeless, unchanging principles that you can use to navigate all the crazy, ever-changing stuff life throws your way. The goal is just to recognize the pattern you're in so you can act wisely.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the two primal forces that drive everything. Then we'll see how they fit into life's natural S-curve. We'll look at the start and growth phases, figure out how to handle the peaks and valleys, and then wrap it all up with how you can make this your personal playbook.
All right, let's pop the hood and look at the engine of the I-Ching. Everything in this system flows from this dynamic dance between two fundamental, complementary forces.
These forces are called heaven and earth. Heaven is that proactive, creative, go-getter energy. It's the force that initiates, that starts things. And earth is the receptive, nurturing energy. It's what responds, what supports and builds. And here's the key: neither one is better. The real wisdom is knowing when to be heaven and when you need to be earth.
And this is where it gets really practical. That heaven principle gives us this incredible metaphor for a career: the 6 stages of a dragon. You start out as the hidden dragon, kind of preparing and waiting for the right moment. Then you become the appearing dragon. You're seen, you're excelling. Then you're running, being diligent, until it's time to be the leaping dragon and take that calculated risk. Pretty soon, you're the flying dragon, soaring with your network, before you finally become the retiring dragon, planning what's next. It's a whole career arc right there in one pattern.
So, how do we organize all this? Well, the I-Ching uses this brilliant framework that honestly feels like it could have been invented in Silicon Valley. It's a life cycle curve, a strategic roadmap.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it. This ancient text organizes its wisdom along a pattern we all recognize from business and tech: the classic S-curve or bell curve life cycle. It's a pattern that applies to projects, careers, companies, pretty much everything.
And this life cycle has 5 basic phases. You've got the start, then growth, you hit a peak, then there's a decline, and finally renewal or transformation. And for each of these stages, the I-Ching has very specific strategic advice. Let's jump into those first 2. Every project, every career, every relationship, they all start with these first 2 phases. So let's see what the I-Ching says about handling the challenges of just getting started and then managing that acceleration of growth. The start phase is represented by hexagram 3, which is called sprouting. And that name is just perfect, isn't it? Like a tiny seed pushing through hard soil, starting anything new is described as this difficult, super energy-consuming process. The I-Ching doesn't sugarcoat it. It's very real about the struggle. So what's the playbook for when you're sprouting? First, you gotta overcome that initial inertia. Just get moving. Make sure you're actually creating real value. And here's a huge piece of advice. You have to know when it's time to pivot or even quit if you're totally stuck. And finally, be careful about taking on huge deals too early. They can suck up all the energy you need to actually grow. Okay, so after sprouting, you get to growth. This is hexagram 4, called naive. And it's all about the lifelong journey of learning, of breaking through ignorance. It kind of reframes being naive not as a bad thing, but as the perfect starting point for getting wise. The wisdom here is all about your mindset. Follow good examples, find mentors. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Take on responsibility, maybe even teach others, because that's a great way to learn. Now, did you notice the shift here? In the sprouting phase, the advice was know when to quit. But here, it's the opposite. If you get stuck, don't quit. Get help. It's all about keeping that childlike curiosity alive.
Now, we move into the later stages of the cycle. What happens when you actually reach the top? And just as critical, how do you handle that inevitable slide down?
The peak is called vibrant flow. It's that time of just total harmony and abundance, where this amazing multiplier effect kicks in, right? Small efforts start bringing these huge gains. It's that feeling when everything is just clicking. And with success, there's always a but, isn't there? It brings new dangers. So the strategy shifts to preservation. You got to keep the culture fair. You have to actively root out bad practices. And above all, you have to stay alert for the two enemies of success that always creep in when you're on top: complacency and infighting. After the peak, well, decline often follows. This is represented by hexagram 12, stagnation. And this isn't necessarily about failure. It's a natural phase where the success you had can actually lead to corruption or old habits, and things just grind to a halt. This is not a time to be passive. The playbook here calls for swift, decisive action. You got to pull out what's not working, whether it's old practices or even people. It warns leaders to look past the flattery that might be hiding bad performance. The message is crystal clear. Leadership needs to wake up and clear the blockage to get ready for the next cycle. So, we've walked through the entire life cycle. What's the big takeaway here? How do we turn all this ancient wisdom into something we can actually do? Look, the goal isn't just to know this stuff, it's to apply it. And just to prove how timeless these ideas are, modern strategists have actually mapped these i-Ching principles directly onto current business frameworks, like the 4D leadership model. It shows that the qualities of great leaders today, vision, influence, strategic thinking, are the same qualities being discussed in these ancient hexagrams. The language changes, but the patterns, they don't. And that really brings us to the final, and I think most powerful idea. The i-Ching is not a crystal ball. It's not here to show you some future you can't avoid. It's more like a mirror. It reflects the deep underlying pattern of whatever situation you're in right now. It hands you the strategic map, it shows you where you are, and then it puts the choice right back in your hands, asking you the ultimate question. Now that you see the pattern, what are you going to do?